the other half of the church
In the morning at 7:30. There's some of them at 8 a.m.
very clean. Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. I'm Dave Wilkins, your host, and this is the program that comes into your home once a month on the first Tuesday of the month. And here we are in the library, and I am here with some friends of mine from the Toastmaster organization. And tonight we're going to do, as we always do, which is promote the Toastmaster organization and also some parliamentary there at the end. We'll talk about that. Every month, this show comes to you live, and it's through the Allen County Public Library. If you would like to do a show here in the Allen County Public Library, all you need to do is call 421-1250 and tell them your intentions, that what you would like to do. They will set up an appointment, and you will come down here, and you can work out the details, and get a crew and a studio together, and you'll be on your way doing your own TV shows, even as we're doing here tonight. So as I said, this is through the Allen County Public Library and Access Fort Wayne. Thank you very much. I'm Dave Wilkins. I'm the parliamentarian for District 11 for the first half of the fall conference here in Fort Wayne. And also I'm a member of the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, a 70-year-old club that meets there at Ivy Tech. And we meet on every Thursday night from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We meet in room 1626. And as a result of that, we'd like to invite you to attend any of our meetings. We're open to the public, and anyone can attend.
Could you move over, please?
Excuse me. We had a little technical difficulties there. Anyway, Anthony Wayne meets every Thursday night from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Ivy Tech. They're on Coliseum Boulevard, on just south of Coliseum. With me are two members of the other Toastmasters clubs here in Fort Wayne. The first person I'm going to introduce is Dave Parnin. He is our division director. It's an elected position here in Division B and part of District 11. And Dave is a member of the Brotherhood Mutual Club. Now that club is a closed club. That means you have to work at that company to belong there. But he would like to promote some other clubs while he's here this evening. So David, thank you for being here tonight. It's always good seeing you. You take care. And I hope you have a good time on your first shot at the TV show.
Thank you.
Now next to Dave is a young man I know really well, Ben Wilkins. In the past, you've heard his name announced on more than one occasion as being one of the camera operators here. Well, since being a camera operator, he has also joined the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, and that is the club that his grandmother and I belong to. So we have a generational Toastmaster family there at Anthony Wayne, 2 adults and 1 grandchild. And Ben, thank you for being here tonight. And we're going to ask you about Toastmasters in a few minutes, and we're just going to talk about what's going on here in Division B.
Perfect.
Okay, and I'm glad to have you here. So what I want to do is, rather than stand here at the lectern, I'm going to sit down and get a little more informal. And we're going to talk about what's going on here in Division B and a little bit more about Toastmasters. So be right back. Want to go to the covers now? There you go. Yeah. So I've been a member of the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters for over 32 years now, and I know what it's all about, but I'd like to have you talk a little bit about the structure of how Toastmasters is actually organized and how you fit into that organization as a division director. Dave.
Thanks, David. Toastmasters is a worldwide organization. It goes around the world, but everything that happens for each person happens in a club. The clubs are the basis of Toastmasters. Clubs are organized into groups called areas. Those usually consist between 3 to 5 clubs. And then each area is organized into what's called a division. And there could be 3 to 5 areas per division. We are Division B in Fort Wayne. It's Fort Wayne and surrounding areas. There's also a club in Kendallville, Indiana, which is part of Division B. But it's mostly, think of it as Northeast Indiana. Divisions are organized into a district, which for around here is pretty much the state of Indiana. It also incorporates Louisville, Kentucky, and maybe some other communities along the border of the state, but for the most part, it is the state of Indiana. That's District 11. And then our district is part of a region. We are Region 5, and the regions, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they are worldwide.
I believe there's regions all over the world.
Right, yes. And so it is a worldwide organization. It's not just in the United States and Canada, but pretty much any country you can think of.
And how did you get involved in the leadership aspect of it? I mean, did you have to be a club president, or did you have to be an officer in the club?
Well, I've been around Toastmasters for a number of years, so I had accomplished those things anyway. But it's basically, I was asked by the previous area director. I was a club president at the time, and the area directors come around, they visit the clubs, they look for things that the clubs might need help with or could use some constructive criticism, because a main component of Toastmasters is feedback, both in giving speeches and in helping the clubs and developing leaders. So I was asked by the previous area director if I would like to take over his position as he was moving on to other things. And I was asked by our previous division director if I would take over her job. So it's a evolutionary thing. They say always be looking for your replacement. So it's part of building up leaders. So
are you looking for your replacement right now?
I am.
How's that
Not
going?
that I want to get out of it, but I want to give others the same opportunities, and who knows, maybe if I'll do this another year, if I'll move up, or I'll step down for a while, I don't know.
There seems to be a history here in Division B of doing it for 2 years in a row. There's a lot of people that seem to do that over and over. The first year you get your feet wet, and the second year you really take off, it seems like.
That seems to be the case.
Has it been what you thought it would be, or is it different than you thought, or is it worse or better?
Yes, it's all of the above.
All the above.
It's having been an area director last year, I was observing what the division director was doing. So I knew all of the pieces that needed to be done, when they needed to be done. But as far as actually doing them, that's when there's a different reality to the situation. So right now, I'm in the midst of organizing the division level humorous speech contest.
Okay.
We just had area level speech contest, which the area directors did. I told them pretty much what they needed to do. We go to meetings in Indianapolis every other month, and they tell us what needs to be done and give some pointers for it. But when it comes down to it, we have to deal with the situation locally and organize things ourselves for our own division and areas.
And we'll talk about those contests a little later in the program. But I wanted to ask you, Ben, I know you're enjoying Toastmasters. How has it affected your life outside of the organization, not in the Toastmasters organization?
Well, it almost seems to me like it's affected me outside of Toastmasters more than it has inside of
Oh,
Toastmasters.
really? Could you give an example of something that makes a difference?
Well, so I was told by a lot of different people that in Toastmasters you're taught to address a group formally and informally, that it also can help you with interpersonal communication. So obviously within the Toastmaster organization, I've been more comfortable speaking in front of large groups with people that I know rather than people that I don't know. So in Toastmasters, inside of our club, talking to everybody that I know there as members is obviously much easier for me than talking to a large group of people that I'm not as familiar with. Which is what I mean when I say that I've found that it helps me more outside of Toastmasters than inside of Toastmasters. It's mainly helped me with my job in the way that I address people and the types of conversations that I have, it's been much easier to address people in general and also to dig deeper into the kind of conversation that I need to have with my customers at my job.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How about your personal life? Has it affected that at all?
I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you necessarily want any particular details, but it has helped as far as my relationships with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
It helped me have better conversations.
Do you
overall.
find that you listen better?
Yes.
You hear what they're saying? Yeah.
Especially that, yes.
Yeah.
Which,
I've always said that you hear with the ear, but you listen with your heart.
and I've heard that, yes. That
Yeah.
I find that listening better leads to better conversation because you can actually respond appropriately instead of just responding with what I have in my head next.
That's very true. So you're
Most
so you're
people-
so you're listening better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you found that the topic selection makes a difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Significantly.
all of a sudden, when you're asking questions of people, you're eliciting a response, not just
Right.
making a statement. What do you think, David? Do you think that's true too?
Oh, yes, I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
The topic sessions, they're designed to help you think on your feet. Because you're presented with a topic and you have no idea what it is. You have 1 to 2 minutes to speak on it. And you can address the question or you cannot address the question, but you still have to speak and give some sort of response that is hopefully entertaining, could be informative, but it addresses the situation and it is a response. So you can take it in any direction you want. And the same thing holds true with conversations. When you're talking with somebody and you're part of a group, you don't know what subject might come up. It might be politics, it might be the weather, but you might talk about how bad the aftermath of the hurricanes have been lately. And you may not have watched the news on that a lot recently, but you still are part of the conversation. So it helps out in those regards.
That's a really good point that I actually hadn't thought about too deeply. That makes a lot of sense.
If you don't know the answer to the question, you don't really have to answer it. You can
Right.
go on to whatever it is you want to say.
Yeah, or a lot of times, topic sessions, usually there's a handful of people, I'll say 5 people. It depends how long your club meetings are, but there are times I've gone back and answered a question from a previous, that had been asked to a previous person that it's like I didn't care for mine, but I made a transition and answered the other person's question because I had a response that I really wanted to give for that one.
Yeah. I have my shtick, I guess, for Toastmasters is when they ask me a question, I'll talk for a minute about how fabulous that question is and never get to the answer. But I use gestures and vocal variety and pauses and emphasis and eye contact. I use all the things that you're supposed to use, but I never answer the question.
And that's appropriate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of flack for that, but I don't mind doing it. Okay, well, we do have 2 or 3 speeches, and all these speeches tonight are going to do the same thing. They're going to give our personal choice or personal reason for being in the organization, and perhaps why we're there, perhaps why we're going to stay. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to do this really correct. I'm going to go up and introduce Dave. Here we go. And ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker. Yes, indeed. Our next speaker will be Dave Parnin, and he is, as I have said before, our Division B Director. And his presentation is going to be called All About Toastmasters, and this is his personal thoughts on the organization itself. Please welcome Dave Parnin.
Thank you, Dave. What do you suppose is the best kept secret in Fort Wayne? How about Indiana? Maybe even the United States, or the whole world for that matter? Well, I tell you that secret is Toastmasters. It's an organization that's been around for years and years and years, but a lot of people don't know about it, or they have misconceptions about what it really is. I didn't know anything about it when I first was invited to a Toastmasters meeting. That was way back in the summer of 1990. Yeah, a long time ago. But it was something, I walked in, it was a really thriving club at the time, a room full of people, and I sat there as an observer, and it was a more formal meeting than I had been accustomed to at that point. And the part that got me hooked was, as we were talking about, table topics. Table topics is where somebody presents a question, and you have 1 to 2 minutes, depending on the format of the meeting, to give a response. And I thought, that looks like fun. I wonder if I could do that. And I came back the following meeting and the following meeting, and eventually they asked me a question too. Or they asked me, would you be interested in taking one? And I said, I'll give it a try. And my time ran out. I had more to say than I realized I could. 1 minute goes by pretty fast when you have a lot to say and don't have your thoughts formalized. So, over the years, like I say, it was 1990, I think I've gotten better. I think I've gotten more used to the situation. But as I found out, that was a club a long time ago. There was a gap of about 10 years in there where I wasn't a part of Toastmasters. I had a job. It was far out of Fort Wayne. It took me 50 minutes on a good day to drive to my job, another 50 minutes home. And I had small children, and I didn't have time in my day with the family activities and my work to go to a meeting. And there wasn't one near where I worked at the time. So I had that break. When I came back to Toastmasters, it was because I got a new job here in town that had its own club right at my company that met over lunchtime. It was convenient, and I was able to pick up where I left off. I found out when I started again that club, we did the same things that we did in my original club, but we did them a little bit differently. Some clubs begin their meeting, I say this is a formal meeting, they begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Some clubs give an invocation. Some clubs do both. Some clubs tell a joke at the beginning of the meeting. Some clubs don't. Some clubs, they will pass around pieces of paper, and at the end of table topics, you write down who you think gave the best response, and you cast your vote, and at the end of the meeting, they announce who the winner is. And you get your picture with the trophy. They might post it on Facebook or to their website. But still, though, it's something that some clubs do, some clubs don't. Each club has their own personality. Some clubs are open clubs, which means that anybody can come to their meetings. I currently belong to a closed club, which means only the people at my company can attend, because it's held in an environment where you have to go through the receptionist. You have to be escorted to the meeting room where it's at. So it's not conducive, so we just don't open it to the public. And that's okay, because there are lots of clubs in the area that meet at different days, different times. Some meet early in the morning, some meet at lunchtime, some meet in the evening, some meet on Mondays, some meet on Thursdays, some meet on Wednesdays. It all depends. So if you are interested in a club, or if you think Toastmasters is something that you could be interested in, I would suggest you go to toastmasters.org. At the top of the screen, there's some text that says Find a Club. Click on that. You can type in your city, and it'll give you a Google map, and along the side of the screen, it'll list the clubs and the days and times that they meet. My personal club, it meets on Thursdays at lunchtime on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. Some clubs meet weekly, so I would suggest doing that. Every club has their own personality. Mine meets in an office building. Some meet in restaurants. Some meet at libraries. Some meet at churches. It all depends where they found a convenient place to meet. So if you visit a club, and you are welcome to visit a club if it's an open club, and it will tell you that on the website, you might try visiting other clubs as well. You might find that you really like that club, but you owe it to yourself to maybe come back to that club, but also try some other clubs in addition to that, if they fit into your schedule. So it's not all clubs are the same. We all go through the process of giving speeches, developing leaders, and evaluations. So that's, in a nutshell, what Toastmasters is about. And it's been something that I have found benefit to since 1990. Dave?
All right, thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Dave. It's interesting to hear each person's take and what they feel is the most important portion of the program or the meeting. Now, the next fellow that we're going to hear from has been a Toastmaster for a little less than 6 months. I think you joined in May or June. When was it?
It was right at the end of April.
Okay, so you've been a Toastmaster 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so, okay. He's going to be speaking from the basic manual. That's project number 6, and it's called Vocal Variety. So with his speech entitled, Why I Like Toastmasters, please welcome Ben Wilkins. Ben, please.
Thank you, Dave. My fellow Toastmasters, and guests at home, obviously, welcome. Why I like Toastmasters. I would like to tell you why I like Toastmasters, but before I do, I think I need to tell you why I joined Toastmasters. As David said, there's a lot of different reasons to join Toastmasters, a lot of different things that Toastmasters can do for you. But it's not necessarily what you can do for yourself, it's more what you can do for Toastmasters as well. About 5 months ago, we'll round it to 6 because it was actually a couple weeks before I joined Toastmasters, my dad came to me. He said, Ben, you know that I've been a Toastmasters member for a long time. And I said, yes, I do know that. And he says, well, my membership to the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters Club is coming to an end. But they need more members. And I know that you've been to Toastmasters as a guest. I know that you know what Toastmasters is and that you've been there multiple times. Is it something you would be interested in doing? I looked at my dad and I said, yeah, I don't see any reason why not. It gives me an excuse to go see my grandparents. It gives me something to do on Thursday nights. It's my one night off a week from work. So hey, why not? He goes, okay, cool, because if you want, I'll foot the bill for you for the first 6 months. And I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity because I get to see my grandparents more, and hey, my dad's going to foot the bill, so why not? Little did I realize at the time what I was getting myself into. I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean that negatively whatsoever. I didn't realize that there was quite so much to do in Toastmasters. I hadn't realized that it's more than just standing up here and giving a speech. I joined Toastmasters because I thought that not only would it help me, but also because I wanted to spend more time with my grandfather. Once I joined Toastmasters, I got to the point where I started enjoying it more and more, and I started looking forward to every Thursday night. I know that at 6:30 I get to go to my Toastmasters meeting, and I don't have to do anything else except that for the next hour and a half. Fast forward to today. I'm on my last project in my book, out of 10, I guess 11, because I have to do the entertaining speech still, which that'll be fun, I think. And now I'm up here talking in front of a camera instead of my normal Toastmasters group. This is very different for me than what I'm used to. I've very much enjoyed doing what I do with Toastmasters. I've gotten to the point where I can come up with ideas much faster. I can come up with responses much faster. And as Dave has said, the table topic session is very thrilling, in my opinion. Because you don't know what the question is going to be. You don't know what your response is going to be because you can't come up with a response to a question that you don't even know. And then when you hear the question, you have no idea who it's going to because it's just a general question and then they choose a person. It's helped me think on my feet more. It's helped me come up with faster, better responses than just, I don't know. I don't know. Instead, I can stand up in front of my Toastmasters group and I can give a legitimate response with a proper opening, a body close, vocal variety gestures, all of the necessary things needed for a speech. Which has gotten me to the point where I actually stopped writing my speeches. I've come up with an idea that I want to talk about. I start formulating the thoughts in my head about what I want to talk about and how I'm going to present it to my group. I think I stopped on that at project number 5. And I've skipped around in the book. I realize this is project number 6 and there's 11 total. I've skipped around quite a bit. But they told me I could do that, so I figured why not? One of my favorite speeches that I gave was my speech about Victoria, which my grandpa knows pretty well, and I think the guys here at the camera studio know as well, about my truck. My sad, poor truck. But it was a very fun speech. It was very entertaining for me, and it was also, I think, very entertaining for our group as well. I got a lot of people down and out about the whole thing, and then brought them right back up with very, very loud laughter and applause at the end, which encouraged me to continue forward with what I'm doing with Toastmasters. As I said, it's helped me with my job. It's helped me with my personal relationships between my friends and my girlfriend. It's helped me with my relationship with my family. I've gotten to spend more time with my grandparents. And it's helped me, I think, get closer to them as well because we have a lot of things that we can talk about. We can talk about what's going on in my life, what's going on in their life, how the Toastmasters meeting went, how the TV show went that evening. There's so many different things for us to talk about now that it just helps. I realize that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It just helps. It helps me because it helps me realize what I have to say and how I can say it and how to say it better. Which I find is the whole purpose of the Toastmasters organization, is how to say it more effectively, whatever it may be. I've found that I highly enjoy Toastmasters and what I'm doing for our group, and being that I belong to the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters organization, that particular club, I guess I should say, as the Sergeant at Arms, and the responsibilities that I've been given have also helped me realize that there's more to just this than standing up here and performing for a group. So much more than that, and I cannot emphasize that enough, and how much I enjoy Toastmasters. I don't know that I can condense all of it down to a 5 to 7 minute speech. If I could talk the entire rest of the hour, but I'm not going to do that.
Go ahead, talk as long as you want.
I'm, well, vocal variety is not something I'm good at. I've told you this. This is a struggle. Being a Toastmaster, I think, is a very important thing to do. Everybody talks all the time, even people that probably shouldn't. And Toastmasters is going to help you speak more effectively. I've not had an opportunity with my job yet to talk to a large group of people all at once, as Toastmasters has taught me to do. Rather, it's helped me instead talk to my individual coworkers, my peers, and my boss. And it's interesting to me how much different my job is now, and how different my relationship with my coworkers is since becoming a Toastmaster. I look forward to everything I can do with Toastmasters, and I very strongly encourage anybody that even has thought about it to at least come as a guest and see what we do. And you might even get a table topics question and you get to laugh for a minute. Beyond that, I think that my time up here is done, and I will return control to Mr. Dave Wilkins.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Ben. If you can time me, 7 minutes. Everyone has their own reason for coming to a group, and if you were to ask every single person in the club, you would get as many different answers as there are people there. In 1985, I was 42 years old, and I had a job as a hairdresser. I had my own salon at that time, a small salon. And at that point in my life, I would have to say I had gotten religion. That is to say, I had been studying some religious philosophy, and I had this notion that I now knew everything there was need to know about God. And I decided that if I was going to give this message to the world, I had to learn how to do it. To that end, I joined this Toastmaster Club because Anthony Wade had something called the Speechcraft going on. You don't hear about it as much anymore as you did years ago, but Speechcraft is a 6-week, quickie mini course in public speaking. And so I signed up, I got into that course, and they fast-track you through 6 speeches in 6 weeks. And I did pretty well, I thought, and I was done. And then I wanted to go back the 7th week because I heard there was somebody who was going to speak and I wanted to hear them. And then I went back the 8th week because there was somebody else on the program I wanted to hear. And then the 9th, and then the 10th. And you know, Woody Allen once said that 85% of success in this life is just showing up. Think of that. 85% is just showing up. Of course, if you think about it, if you're not there, you can't do squat. But if you're there, at least you're a part of the thing. Well, at one time at Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, I had an 8-year record of never having missed a single solitary meeting. 8 years in a row, perfect attendance. Then I met Bob Lyman, and he messed up that schedule because this TV show was on Thursday night at that time, once a month. So I began missing once a month. Then I got into some other activities in Toastmasters. I didn't realize how much it was going to change my life, but it truly did. It changed how I related myself with my family members, with my wife, with my children. All of a sudden, I was listening rather than hearing. Because you may hear with the ears, but you really listen with your heart. So listening is what's really important. And I began watching what I was saying, and I realized that if I said certain things in certain ways, it could be a problem. Otherwise, if I said things in a different way, it wasn't a problem. And here it was all because of the Toastmaster organization and their idea, and Dr. Smedley's idea, that you could learn by doing and practice ahead of time what you were going to do at work or on a job interview or a sales presentation. Any of those things you could learn, practice ahead of time, and when you get to where you're going, then you're going to do a much better job. Ben talked about how it helped at work. It really and truly does, because you are now listening to your coworkers or your clients or your customers, and you're finding out what they're really saying and what they're really meaning. My experience, a lot of people, what they're saying is not what they're meaning, and what they're trying to accomplish is not what you're hearing. You have to hear the message, I guess, behind the message to know what you're doing. And we're all just ordinary people. You know, there's nothing really fancy about what we do or what we say. We don't have particular gifts or skills. We have just developed those that we are born with. And you're born with them out there, too. If you've never been a part of a Toastmaster meeting, I really urge you to go. As you pointed out, you can go to toastmasters.org and find a club near you, or you can find one. Here in Fort Wayne, we have Division B, District 11 Toastmasters. I believe that's also on the internet. And there are clubs all over Fort Wayne. There's probably 10 clubs in the city, some in the morning, some lunchtime, some evening. Some serve food, some are in restaurants, some are not. The one I happen to belong to is an evening club, meets every week at Ivy Tech, and we meet from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in room 1626. It's a classroom setting, but Toastmasters is definitely a club, not a class. You don't pass or fail, you only grow. We have ways of keeping you from failing. You cannot fail. You will not fail. You will always succeed. So I can urge you to come to a Toastmaster meeting. I really think it's something that you ought to do. It's something that is really, really worthwhile. And we've talked about mostly the club setting. And as I finish the speech, I just want to encourage you to visit any club that's open here in Fort Wayne and have a good time visiting them. And if it's what you need, I think you will really enjoy joining them because you get your materials quickly. And we also have some new programs coming in, and I think maybe we can talk about those too. So join Toastmasters. It will change your life. And that's me. Okay. Now you have an evaluation here for his speech. Do you want to give it at this time, Dave? Can you do that?
I can.
Can you?
Sure.
All right. Okay. Put that back here. And Dave's going to give the evaluation for Ben's final speech in his basic manual. Bring that to the club.
One part of Toastmasters that we haven't talked about is the evaluation. And evaluating a speech, it's constructive criticism. I'm not here to say, boy, that was the worst speech I've ever heard. That is not constructive. That wasn't the worst speech I've heard. And I have heard some bad speeches. But we try to pick out what the person did well. And you may not be able to see this through the cameras, but the one thing that I thought that Ben did very well was he had no notes here. He was speaking just from the thoughts that came out of his head, which is what I did for my speech. But you've been in the program less than a year, which I've practiced, and you've practiced, but not as long and as much as I have. But so I thought you did really well in that regard. The manuals offer some guidelines on things that the speaker is trying to accomplish. In this project, it says the speaker is supposed to use a voice that is pleasing to listen to, with proper balance of volume, pitch, rate, and use pauses to enhance his or her message. The speaker's voice should reflect and add to the meaning, to the thoughts that he or she is presenting, and it goes on from there. Then it's got some categories, but it has things like topic selection, volume, rate, pitch, quality, pauses, expressiveness, vocal variety, organization, and word usage. And overall, I didn't give him bad marks on anything. I thought that you either did very well or that you were okay. So there were certain things, like I noticed you had a pause, where you seem to be trying to think about what's coming next. And pauses can be okay if you're building anticipation or you want the audience to think what's coming next. But that wasn't the case for this. I think we were mostly trying to organize your thoughts. There were other things like volume, which I thought you did very well at, and you did have vocal variety in your speech. So the body language, we're limited. I can't move very far to one side or the other just because of the format of the TV studio. If I was in an auditorium or a classroom, I might have 8 feet total to move side to side. I could do gestures that wouldn't get out of the camera shot. So from that standpoint, we're somewhat limited. We have to stay in front of the microphone so you can hear what we're doing. But given the context, I didn't think that body language was something that you were okay, but that's because of the situation. There are other things like organization. You did very well at that. For speaking somewhat extemporaneously, you knew, I think, ahead of time what you wanted to say, but you were putting it together on the fly. So that type of organization is, you did very well. It's somewhat like an extended table topic with a little bit of preparation and knowing what you wanted to. So overall, I think you did a great job, and I wish I could have heard your other speeches, just because I'd like to see where you came from to know where you've gotten today. So that's my evaluation.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
As Dave pointed out, the most important thing in a meeting is the evaluation, where you learn what you've done well and where you might improve the next time. And because it's not a class, you can't pass or fail. It's merely the opinions of another member, and it's your peer group that helps you learn. So that's what's really important about the Toastmaster program. Something we haven't talked about is the upcoming contest, and I know this is your contest, Dave. Can you talk us through what's going to happen? And this is going to be on Saturday morning?
Yes. There is a humorous speech contest this Saturday morning. It's the Division B contest, which means the winners of the 3 area contests will be the contestants at this next level. The area contestants came from the clubs. And so each club had a contest and sent a representative, or some clubs did. Not every club participated. But anyway, the top 3 from the area contest will be participating this Saturday morning at Ivy Tech in the auditorium. That's the North Anthony campus, not the one on St. Joe Road, but the one at the corner of Anthony and Coliseum at Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. And the winner of that contest will go to the state level, which will be the first weekend of November at the district conference, which they'll represent.
I believe that's in Syracuse this year.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And there are 8 divisions in this district. So the person who wins this contest will be one of 8 people with humorous speeches. And you can get some really funny speeches that come out of this.
Okay. And the speeches, how long are they?
They are 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. And you say they've won 2 other contests. They've won in their club.
The club and the area.
And the area, okay.
In 2002, I was the contestant representing our division at the humorous speech contest. And when you get that far, you practice your speech a lot. You make changes, and by the time you get that far, you're ready for it. And
Okay. Okay, now, are there any other division events coming up? Do you have officer training anytime soon? Is that coming up, or?
we just had officer training. It's something that happens twice a year, once in the summer/fall and once in the winter/spring. Ours is usually summer and winter, just because it fits in better with the speech contest. We will be having another speech contest beginning after the start of the year. That will be the international speech contest, which is
Is that another 5 to 7 minute speech?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's typically more of a serious topic, or one that conveys a meaning or message.
Okay, okay. Well, it sounds like we have a lot going on here in Division B. And again, I'd like to have each of you talk about your club and take a moment and invite people to the club meeting of your choice. And you want to start, David?
Well, I would invite you to my club, but it's a closed club, so you can't come. So stay away. Don't even try to get in the building. But it's, like I said, I work at Brotherhood Mutual Insurance, and our club meets there. So, but there are a number of other clubs in the area. Go to Toastmasters.org, click on Find a Club, type in your city or zip code, and it'll give you a range of choices.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And Ben, do you want to talk about your club?
Absolutely. So our club, like you actually had already said, is I'm just going to be reiterating, I suppose. So our club meets at the Ivy Tech campus on the corner of Coliseum and Crescent, and Coliseum and Anthony. It sits right in between the three. Every Thursday from 6:30 to 8 p.m. We've quite a few members right now that I know of. We're somewhere right around 20.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If they all pay their dues.
Okay. Well, so somewhere right around 20. And yeah, I mean it's a really great club to be part of. I've been to a few different Toastmasters clubs, I would think. I guess I have with different people at least. And I've got to say that the group of people that I'm with right now is phenomenal. They are very supportive and very, what's the word for it? Not critical, but they give very good evaluations. I'll put it that way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Ben.
I will add, if you go looking for a club and you can't find one that fits your schedule or is in your location, it's always possible to start a new club. You need to have 20 people to start a club for the initial charter. There's a club in Decatur, or a potential club in Decatur right now, that is in the process of trying to recruit more members or to get that club off the ground. So we don't currently have a club in Decatur, Indiana, but there could be one, for example. Or if you would like to get one at your company, that's a possibility too. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David. And thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
And again, all I can advise you to is my club, which is, Ben said, the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters there at Ivy Tech, room 1626, Thursday nights, 6:30 to 8 p.m. You would all be welcome. Come and see us and see what we do. It's very reasonable to join. I can't talk about fees and things on the air here because Access has specific rules against that. But I can tell you it's a very modest cost, and it's well worth it. Sometimes we talk about Robert's rules, but tonight I think we have just about finished off this hour talking about Toastmasters. So if everybody is happy, I think we'll just close out a little bit early, and I'll say thank you, Ben, for being here tonight. David, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Maybe you can come back sometime.
Okay.
Okay. I want to thank Dennis Osborne, and I also want to thank Jim Mount and Otto Boucher, Access Fort Wayne, and you, the viewers. Thank you for watching. And until the next time, may all your meetings be fair and productive. And for better thinking, speaking, and listening, think about Toastmasters. Good night. To the parliamentarians, which is the other half of the church
In the morning at 7:30, there's someone
very clean.